prophet.
He can't say it.
I can't tell you.
And you're an equal prophet, and you know it.
He knows it.
They
I
went
told
into
the rabbi
different
that.
corners. They didn't,
My wife doesn't
no
tell me anything.
communication with
Forget
them.
about a prophecy.
I never looked at it that way.
I'm on a need to know basis.
All right.
And most of the time tells me you don't need to know.
Order in the house. Okay. So I think that in honor of the elections, we all won. The fact that we're here, not in front of the tube right now, listening to all kinds of talking head, predicting all kinds of things. So that's the first win of the evening. We are in Ruth, Perek Gimel, Pasuk Tetvav. That's 3:15. And we are a couple of psukim, 4 psukim away from the end of chapter 3 out of 4. We are in a...
180.
What?
180. Page 180.
Tetvav.
Tetvav. It's page 118 on your book. And we are in the barn, the tail end of the barn story. In the barn we have Boaz talking to Ruth, who came uninvited, surprised him at night, to ask him to marry her. And he told her that she should not fear the reputation, that the fact that he's telling her no right now. No doesn't mean no forever. It just means no, he'll take care of it. And the reason he cannot say yes right away is because there is another relative closer. His uncle, who is the brother of Elimelech, his name was Tov. Boaz was the son of another gentleman, another brother. So Boaz is one generation removed. And he said that, he needs to, there is a ranking or a priority list, and he needs...
If Boaz was 80, this
So,
guy was
what?
If Boaz was 80, this fellow's much older.
Either yes or no. I mean, people can have different generations that match. I don't know the ages, but Boaz was 80 at the time, and I don't know how old Tov was. But Tov had a wife and children. Boaz did not have wife and children. So he was asking her to agree to this move because she's not a commodity. She's not something that can be traded. You marry, I marry. It's not really all about the decision of the man. She had to agree. So he was asking her to agree because he wanted her to be settled. He wanted all the best for her. And he felt that he cannot, as the leader of the Jews, as the guy that is the rabbi of the community, he cannot just go and take off the top first. He needed to go by the priority list, and do what's right. So he asked her to do what's right. So that's where we left off last time. And he told her to hang around all night. She met him. She actually revealed himself to him in the middle of the night, exactly midnight. And there were a few good hours until the morning. And he didn't want to let her go back to the city, which was far away in the middle of the night. It's for obvious reasons. So he asked her to hang around, to stay around, and rest until the morning. She was restless. She couldn't sleep. He was trying to talk her into understanding the situation. And the early morning came before dawn, before someone can recognize people from 2 yards away, where it was pitch black still, and even your friend you cannot recognize from that distance yet. And he basically told her, "Listen, it's morning. Let's wrap it up, call the day, and I will take care of it today. Promised you, I'll take care of it today." Now, before sending her off, he asked, "Vayomer havia mitpachat, give me your handkerchief, your shawl. It was a mitpachat. The shawl is on the top, right. A mitpachat is on the head. He was asking her to.
Her head covering?
Yes, her head
Veil
covering.
herself so she isn't recognized.
So he asked her to take off her head covering. Why to take off her head covering? He wanted to do something to wrap something in it, to give her, a goodie bag to go home. But also, so from afar, or even reasonably not so far, people will not think that she's a woman. If you see someone with a head covering in a Jewish town, you know that it's a woman. When you see someone without a head covering, all of the probability is that it's not. Now, she was not married, so she could walk around without a head covering, no problem. For modesty, she wore anyway because she was married before. She was a widow, obviously. So he took that mitpachat and he told her, "Havia mitpachat, give it to me. The mitpachat asher alayich, the handkerchief that your head covering, ve'echzi ba, and hold it, vatochaz ba, and she held it." So he said, "Give it to me and hold it." So now they're both holding it. They're both holding it. If you guys recall, if you ever exactly, if you've ever been in a wedding where the chatan is making a kinyan in order to promise, all of the conditions that noim to the kala, right? So they're raising a handkerchief. So he was holding the handkerchief with her to signal to her that this is a deal. They're making a deal. He's going to take care of it right now. I mean, today. So don't worry about it. And so she held it, and then it's when you need to fill up a bag nowadays. It happens in our house when you put the garbage can and you need to hold it from both sides. So you hold one side, you hold one side, you put stuff right. So I never do that. So he sort of tied it as a triangle and filled it up with shesh sorim. Vayama shesh sorim. He counted. He measured shesh sorim. Now shesh sorim is 6 stalks of grain, right? This is very little. It's not really 6 stalks of grain. It's the 6th of a seah. Now, how did they measure it? They measure it by, they had a unit of measure over there to measure that, and it says, okay, this is 1. And they put 1 stalk on the side to measure that this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So he measured the seah and then measured a sixth of it by putting aside 1 stalk at a time. And he gave her a 6th of a seah, vayashet aliyah, and he put it on top of her, vayavo ha'ir. And he loaded. Now it cannot be 6 only because then he doesn't need to put it on top of her. 6 you can hold with 2 fingers. That's not a lot. And it wasn't 6 seot because then you'll need a truck, right? So it was. Now, what was the whole idea of that unit of measure? Why did he give her? So I think we learned last couple weeks ago that. We learned that this is the size of the omer. This is the size of the manna. Okay, the manna was exactly 6 of a seah. Every day came down, right? What?
An omer.
It was an omer, which is the man, right? The man came in a unit of measure of the omer. So you gave her an omer. An omer is a 6 of a seah. What was the point of the manna, of the man? The point is that they got their allotment for the day. Now, how many meals do people eat normally during the day?
Now it's 3.
On Shabbos, you eat 3. The Shalashudis, it's a special day. On a normal day, if you diet, you eat 6. But if you don't diet, you eat 2. You eat in the morning and in the evening. That's at least the halachically, this is how people eat. When you talk about 1 man worth of eating, like the 2,000 calories, It's 1,000 in the morning, 1,000 in the evening. And so he gave her 1 day worth of food, which is 2 meals, in order for her to take it to home to share it with Naomi. So each one of them will have a meal for the morning breakfast. And he signaled to her that in the evening you won't need it anymore because we're going to have a wedding. We're going to have a wedding. Either way, we're going to have a wedding. I'm going to take care of it today. So either this guy is going to marry you or I'm going to marry you. But I'm giving you, 1 day, 1 morning, 1 breakfast for both of you to enjoy together. And this is it. And vayavo ha'ir. So he sent her out. And then he himself also went out to go to the city. Now, there is a very interesting, the remazim. What?
Don't you fast before your wedding?
He doesn't say that he
Well, if
ate.
he ate
Oh,
no-
she.
See?
Well,
Well, she only ate in the morning, so she fasted the whole day.
You don't eat as of the morning.
No, well, maybe before 5 o'clock, it's...
the fasting thing is a much later. We're going to talk today a whole bunch about weddings because we learn from Boaz how to conduct a wedding. We'll see that.
It's not
So
Rosh Chodesh or anything, right? What do we-
I don't know.
We're
I don't know. It was a morning. Now the remes or the hints, the secret of the number 6, the rabbis tell us that 6 is she married it. He signaled to her that she will marry to have 6 pious people, 6 tzaddikim coming out of her, which is David and Chizkiyahu, Yeshayahu, Daniel, Melech HaMashiach, and there is a disagreement which one is the 6th one. Some said it's a 3 that's worth like a 6. But anyway, she's going to get 6 tzaddikim coming out of her, and they're going to have 6 attributes. I'm not sure if all of them are going to have 6 attributes or one of them will have 6 attributes. The attribute that's being listed is the 6 attributes that David HaMelech had, which is what?
It says each possesses.
The Midrash said each possessive, right? But the listing, what are the attributes?
It's limited to those.
They're listed to the ones of David, which is he was a musician. He was able to play a violin. A Neville, how do you say Neville? Harp, right? He was a Gibor Chal. He was a strong man leader. He was strong. With Ish Milchama was also a leader a warrior. Navon Davar, he was a very smart. He understood one thing from the other. He was able to plan his steps, few steps ahead. He was a handsome dude, Ish Yefet Toar, and God was with him. So that's 6. So he gave her. Now, why am I so harping about this 6, other than the fact that he was playing harp? Because the rabbis learned that this is the source of the Star of David. The Star of David is the shield that protects us, and it has the 6 corners, and those 6 corners has to do with those 6 tzaddikim and the 6 attributes, the special breed of David HaMelech, the special people that came out of David HaMelech that has special ability to lead us. So that's why, till this very day, the Magen David has 6 corners.
it's interesting that David and Mashiach would come from Moab, who were our enemies, and what they did to us. Why would God pick them?
We mentioned something like that before, and we will touch upon it again in a little bit. Okay, from Moab. Okay, so and then what does he do after he gives her the handkerchief with the breakfast? Vayavo, he right away goes to the city to take care of business. He doesn't go back to sleep late because they woke up too early. He doesn't go back he doesn't snooze. He doesn't snooze Ruth, He goes and takes care of business. Now what happens to her? This is it reads like a novel, You see one frame him, one frame her. So she comes back, vatavo el chamota. She came back home. She came back to her mother-in-law. And then her mother-in-law said, Vatomer miyat. So Naomi asked, who are you? Biti miyat, biti, who are you, my daughter? Which is very, very odd question. Yeah, what? She doesn't know who she is? So the rabbis struggle with it, and they say several dark. She came. She was so fast, so fast, and by the time she got home, it was still dark outside, so she didn't recognize her. Number one. Number two.
She's wearing a new headset.
Number two, new answers, right?
6 barley
No,
grains on her
right.
head.
Number two. Naomi, just like Ruth, was twisting and turning at night and couldn't fall asleep. And she, right before morning, like a lot of us old people, we fell asleep. And so she woke her up from a deep sleep and she said, who are you? Like, what's going on? And a third explanation is that she actually asked her, like, how you doing? Are you doing? Who are you? Are you the happy Ruth or the depressed Ruth? Did you get what you wanted? How are you doing? So miyat, that's the question that she was asking her. ותגד לה את כל אשר עשה לאיש. So Ruth is telling her the whole story and what he did to her, how much he helped her, what he promised to do. Vatomer. And now we're specifying exactly what you said. Shesh haseorim ele, these sixth of this breakfast that I'm bringing. Natan li, he gave it to me, ki amar al tavoi rekam el chamotech. He told me, don't, ki amar lai, al tavoi rekam el chamotech. He told me not to come empty-handed to my mother-in-law. So the rabbis learned from it, number one, that you need to be very, very nice. Need to be really, really mensch when you're dealing in family situations like that. Number one. Number two, he wanted to send a signal to Naomi as well. He sent just breakfast. He didn't send dinner as well. So she also should know that things are going to be settled today. He was basically communicating with her with the amounts that he sent. And number three, he wanted to signal to her, don't think that because Ruth is with one foot out the door and I'm going to take care of it today, you're going to be left alone. You're going to be left hang to dry, We will take care of you. So don't worry. All around being super nice. Now, Vatomer shvi biti. So Naomi heard that and says, Vatomer shvi biti, sit down, my daughter. Ad asher tedein ech yipol davar. You and sit down and wait until you'll know what's going to be. Ki lo yishkot haish, ki im kila davar yom. She knew him and she understood all the hints. He is not going to settle down until this is going to be resolved today. And because Ruth was very, very worried. Why was Ruth worried? Because she asked him, marry me. He says, no, there is this other guy. She knew that guy has a wife and children. And she correctly guessed that he's not going to want her. And because, she didn't want to be a third or fifth or whatever will you want to call it. She didn't want to be there. She didn't want to be really involved with Tov because he had a whole family.
Tov.
Tov.
It says Aloni Puloni.
Ploni Almoni is John Doe. That's a name for John Doe. And his name is not mentioned here, just hinted before. V'im Tov yigal otach, before we mention it, in order to not embarrass him. Even though he didn't do the right thing, there is no real mitzvah to embarrass a person. The opposite. So, and she also, this is another interesting thing, and don't raise your eyebrow on that one. We have people who sense things. Tzaddikim who know what will happen, right? Who sense things. But we also have this idea that tzaddikim say something and God follows up. In other words, they have a sixth sense that something will happen and they say it. Not that they know specifically, but it comes to their mind that way and they say it and it happens. So she's saying the whole thing is going to end today because this is the last day of Boaz's life. Everything is going to end today. You're going to get married, you're going to get pregnant, the whole thing all going to end today. So again, what? And then yeah, right. It's true. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of chapter 3.
You made it sound like you only made it happen because she said it.
Tzaddik gozer, the words of a tzaddik.
Yes, but that's what you're saying. That she
I'm
should
saying,
have said it that way?
no, I'm saying the nitznetza baruach hakodesh. That's how it said. That she had some sense, well, a premonition, but she didn't. Not necessarily that she knew. Yes,
Not that she
she
was
saw.
aware.
Yes, she's aware. Tomorrow, in 2 a.m. he's going to die.
Right. But
It doesn't work that way. You know, it's. She had a sense, and she said that word that way. The words of people matter, and you know, it's the more pious you are, the more your words matter. You know, us people that are really not exactly pious, you know, shooting our mouth, but it's not right. It's not right to do. What? Naomi said that. Naomi said that. Okay. All right, let's go to continue with
They
chapter.
had 7 days Shiva then already?
Yes. Let's go and discuss chapter 4, which is the last chapter. We are 3/4 in. Uboaz ala Asha. If you recall, when we discussed the fact of the location of the barn was lower down in a place that has some breeze, but not too much, because they wanted to separate the chaff from the grain and not without losing the grain. So you need a little bit of breeze, so it was in a valley. So now, from the valley, he comes back up, Asha, to the gate. The gate was where the Sanhedrin was sitting. That was the courthouse, the plaza of the city. That's where they were all sitting. Vayeshev Sham. Now, he was the head of the Sanhedrin. He was the head of the court. So he sat there. He came and sat at the gate. Now, from the next few psukim, we're going to learn something extremely fundamental, and that is that the leader of a community, somebody who's leading a congregation, a community, a rabbi, needs to be smart. They need to anticipate things. They need to be few steps ahead of the rest of the crowd, to know exactly what the move of each one of the other players, which is the preferred moves for them, and which one they're likely to choose, and orchestrate it in such a way that it's all okay for the community. Very, very important, and we'll see how those moves are working here. You know, you got to be a kluger, you got to be smart. So you have to play, exactly, you have to play chess. If you're leading a community, you have to play chess, and you better be good at it, otherwise you'll fall apart. So what happens then, he sat there and waited. As part of the Sanhedrin, as the head of the Sanhedrin, he had the power, the strength, to order someone to come in front of the court. He could have used the Shliach Beidin, those runners, that you give them a task and say, bring. Marshal. It's a marshals, exactly. It's a bench, or how do you call it? A bench warrant, right? Bring him in. So he was able to bring that Tov guy, this Ploini Almoni, he was able to bring him, but he didn't do it. We'll see soon why. He sat there and waited. Now, God, until now, everybody, all the actors did what they're supposed to do. Naomi did all the right things by Ruth. Ruth did all the right things by her mother-in-law and by Boaz and by herself. Boaz did all the right things. You know, they didn't do anything wrong. They really all did all the right things. Now, it's time for God to do the right thing. So, God made this divine providence happen, and this guy, Vinea Goel over, and as he was sitting down, he didn't want him to sit there for 2, 3, 4 days and wait. And right away, that Ploini Almoni that Mr. Tov passes by, Asher Diber Boaz, that's the guy that Boaz was talking about, Vayomer. And he told him, Sura Shva Po Ploni Almoni Vayasa Vayeshev. Come sit down here, Mr. John Doe. And he came and sat. Now, there's several things in play in this pasuk. First of all, why did he call him Ploni Almoni, John Doe? You know, he could have called him Yo. You know, why is the word Ploni Almoni? It's not a common word. It's not, John Doe at the time was not a common word either. But
It's not respectful.
well, Ploni comes from the word Pele. Pele has to do with one's thoughts. I never know what you're thinking. That's Pele. That's a wonder to me. And when someone is making a neder, the rabbis has to figure out what they were thinking. Lefale neder all in dava, right? When you read lefale neder all in dava, lefale neder means what did they think when they did the neder? It's a wonder. So he needed to know what this guy was thinking or what about to think, sort of, and figure out what he will say. So you have some thinking to do. And Almoini comes from the word alumim. Alumim, those are the bundles of wheat that you live in the Sodeh. If you recall by Yosef, Vekama alumati vegam nitzava, right? That there are inema almim alumot, that we are making bundles. Alumim is bundles of the wheat because he had some unfinished business. If you recall, we mentioned last time that the whole reason here for the priority list of when who is responsible to take action here is because of the field. It's not because of Ruth. Ruth is with the field. Also, it was customary to save the woman. But the point was the law, the dry law, was about the field, that the field should remain within the family, and the field will be like this is the field of so and so, and he will remain the field of this family or that gentleman, even though he died without children. So by calling him like that, he was hinting that we have some business to deal with. Now, let's go back to Lot. Lot was the great-grandfather of Mrs. Ruth, right, of Moab, right? And why was Lot saved? Lot went to live with those shmegegis, with those bad people at Sodom. Why did God send malachim and to save Sodom and to?
His heritage, his noble heritage.
Because of David HaMelech. Because of David HaMelech. David HaMelech was destined to come from Lot. What? From Moab, which is from Lot. So he was destined to come from Lot. So you need, if the movie is going to have a good ending, you can't kill the ancestor, early on. So he needed to be saved. Now, when they came, the Malachim came, what did they say? Suruna el bet. What did he tell them? Lot. Suruna el bet avdechem. Lot invited them into the house. He was nice enough. He learned from Avraham Avinu achnasat orchim, right? And he told them suruna. Suru is like take a detour, take a beeline. Make a beeline to my house. It's not just come. It's like you have to go from wherever you are, move it. And this is the same language that Boaz told him, Surah. he was going from point A to point B, this Ploini Almoini, he needed to do a beeline and go sit with Boaz for a few minutes. So in addition to that, the Malachim, the angels, were asking Lot at the time, Mi lecha po chatan? Where is your son-in-law? Do you have a son-in-law? He had two son-in-laws that were, about to marry his daughters, but if you recall, they laughed at him. They didn't. We're not going to run. What will happen to us? What are you running away from? But the Malachim wanted to get him and his daughters and the Chatan out. So we'll have David HaMelech. The Chatan batched the plan and, ended up dying in Sodom. So Lot ended up being the father of Moab. But the original plan they had half a brain to listen to the angels, the Chatan would come as well.
Why are you saying one Chatan? It's one or two?
You just need Moab. He didn't. There were two, but he just needed Moab for the plan.
But Chatan means a groom.
Yes.
So you're not talking about a groom. You're talking about son-in-laws.
Chatan of Lot's daughters.
Also son-in-law.
Yeah, Chatan is also Chatan is also son-in-law, of course. Yeah. Chatan and Choten, son-in-law and father-in-law. Anyway, and now another thing that he told him, Ploini Almoni mean, hush hush, right? Nobody knows. John Doe, nobody knows who he is. This situation that we are in right now requires publicity. We need everybody to know what's going on here.
Why?
We'll see. Let's walk through the steps here. It needs to be public knowledge to everybody, so nobody starts talking and saying all kinds of things which we'll mention in a minute. Again, it's all about a leader being very, very, very smart and covers the bases. Now, the last thing that we learn from this pasuk that I know of, not the last thing, I'm sure there are many other things, but the last thing that we're going to discuss here is the fact that when you are in the presence of a great person, you can't just come and sit down. You have to be invited to sit down. When someone goes to meet a Rebbe or someone, they stand in front of them. The Rebbe sometimes asks the person to sit down. If they're smart, they don't sit down. but the point is that you can't just come and pull up a chair and say, "Okay, Rebbe, let's talk." Doesn't work that way. And the same thing with students in math and Rav we know that the students in the class, when the Rav comes, they stand up, and then the Rav tells them, sit down. They don't just sit down on their own. If you won't tell them to sit down, they won't sit down officially. Nowadays, who knows, but yeah. Anyway, so he puts the paw number one, Mr. Ploini Almoni, next to him. Then Then he takes 10 pious people from the elders of the city and tell them to sit down here, and they also sat down. Now, what are those 10 people doing? So they're doing several things. Witnesses, you need two. Minyan. You need minyan for several things. The first thing that he needed a minyan for, he needed to teach the people that you allowed to marry a Moabite woman. As we recall, this was a new law that was taught, that was discovered, agreed upon not long before that, and it didn't make its way around town. People didn't know about it. So he took 10 people, and they're all Miziknei, the elders so people listen to them, and then when they'll go to all corners, all neighborhoods of the city, the word will go out.
But this wasn't just any old 10 people.
10 elders.
These 10 elders.
10 elders.
But they weren't just any 10. They were
10 elders.
There were 10 elders. Dorot.
They've been around the corner a couple
No,
times.
10 elders.
10 elders, people, 10 not, you know.
There could have been 50 elders. Why, there's 10?
First come, first serve basis. I don't know. I mean, so that's number one. Now, why was it important to him to say that halakha right there and then? This is again, smart rabbi. The law is that if a rabbi comes and tells you a halakha that affects him right now, you don't listen to that halakha.
That affects the rabbi.
That affects the rabbi. Like the rabbi is a Kohen, the only Kohen in town, and there is a question about the bundle of truma. Okay, is it allowed or not? And the rabbi is not allowed to give a psak on this and collect it and go home with it, because nogea badavar, it's for him. You know, you can't. He could not say this halakha. Now, if the rabbi does not follow the law and does tell the psak, even if the psak is 100% correct, you don't listen to him because he is involved, because he has right. It's a self-interest, conflict of interest, exactly. So he couldn't wait till the discussion with Ploini Almoni occurred, and Ploini Almoni refuses, because then it will be nogea badavar. So he couldn't say it. So he had to say it before, set it up before Ploini Almoni starts. You know, right now Ploini Almoni is doing is just sitting, wondering what's going on. And let me teach you something. Okay, was that important? I'm going to buy. I'm going to the grocery store. What? Listen, that's why I'm saying that the rabbi has to be uber, chacham, to set it all up. And then he obviously asked him to marry and said no. Okay, so I'm next in line. Now you know that I'm allowed to marry her. So now it's me. But had that happened the other way around, the reverse, it wouldn't have worked. Now, another reason why we have he collected 10 people. Because he promised to take care of the situation right there and then. It's a wedding. It's about to occur. It's it's the Derv's hour. How do you call it? The smorgasbord hour. Exactly. Everybody's going to have sushi and stuff. You came for the sushi. So it was right before the wedding, and from here we learn. And it's a very strong thing that you need 10 people in a wedding. A minyan. You need a minyan in a wedding. The question is, the chatan is allowed to be there, not allowed to be there, is part of the 10, not part of the 10. But you need 10 people in a wedding. And this is where we learn it. So much so that in a...
Boaz himself.
What?
Well, that's it, whether he can be counted in the minyan.
Exactly. He didn't know. If he is not... First of all, you have also the issue of relatives, okay? But that's the question, can the chatan be counted or not? So for one party can, for one other party cannot, and we'll discuss it in a second. So, but for one party is according to many is not part of it. The Sheva Brochas, people need to bless him. He cannot be part of blessing myself. So for the first bracha, he can be, but second, anyway, but there is this is not le'alacha, this is not what we do now, but the Rishonim are saying that the bracha for a widow or a widower who's getting married, the bracha goes as follows. Blessed he who is crowning you with the crown of simcha, like the crown that Boaz wore in Bethlehem, that all of the people blessed him, and the witnesses testify that it's a true arrangement, true marriage. And as it says, like we'll say later on, Vayamru kol ha'am asher bashar, that everybody that was everybody that was there, after the wedding said Mekudesh and Mekudesh, everybody saying Mekudesh and Mekudesh. Everybody is agreeing that she's married, that they're married. So that was the original minhag at the time of the Rishonim. Now I wanted to go a little bit, just to take the opportunity to go through some of the minhagim that we do in a wedding, because it's just very, very interesting. It's apropos, and we don't have much time to start another topic. So originally we know that the engagement, which is the kiddushin, occurred long time before the actual wedding, the nisuin. That's happened long time. That was the custom. He would mekadesh her, but not marry her. And sometimes it would be 6 months, up to a year. Now, the problem is that the status of that woman at that point is very, very precarious. It's very, a lot wrong can happen with him, with her, with the marriage, with what will happen to her afterwards. It's a mess. So the rabbis shortened this, and everything is happening right now in the chuppah. Under the chuppah, everything is happening. The kiddushin and the nisui. Now, because two things are happening, we need a break in the middle. We'll talk about the break in a second. So, now, originally also, the Chatan himself was able to say the first brachot. And you need to do it because it's a party and it's important. You need to do it on wine. So what do we do today? We pour wine, we say, right? And then we saying the bracha, right? So that bracha that signifies the erusin, the kiddushin, was allowed to be said by the chatan. Now, just like in Kriyat Torah, that you have a Baal Koreh that does it for you, right? Even though many of us know how to do it, right? And we should be able to. But in order to not to embarrass those who do not know, you can read, you can, you don't know. I mean, when we talk about a bar mitzvah boy, everybody understands. So this is that is the day in the sun. But on a regular minyan, you don't, and you rely on the Baal Koreh to do it for you. So the same thing in a wedding, the rabbi is saying the bracha, somebody else is saying the bracha, in order to not embarrass those who don't know how to read, the chatanim, that don't know how to read. Now, it's again, just like the rabbi, the boss that was sitting there and planning everything in a wedding, the rabbi does not marry you. There's no such thing, the rabbi marry you. He's marrying us. No, he's not marrying us. You are marrying your wife, right? You're not marrying us. He is there to supervise that everything is done right. That's what the rabbi is doing. And most of the times he's saying the bracha that signifies that this event occurred, and umotzi et hachatan ve'et hakala lidei chova by saying the bracha. But he's not marrying anybody. That's just a side. Now, after those brachot, the chatan kala both drink, and this cup cannot be. You can't say a bracha on it again because it's pagum. It's damaged, right? You have to have a full cup. You cannot say bracha on a cup that somebody drank from. You have to add to it. That's why we're adding later on. They add to it to make it now it's second round. Now, in the same cup, but it's a second round. It's as if it's a second cup.
No, you already made the bracha on what's in the cup, so you can't make the same.
You
bracha
can't make the bracha, right?
On the same on what you already made.
Right. That's one, and another thing. It's pagum. It's damage. You don't want to say bracha. It's for example, if you have a piece of bread which is whole, or a piece of bread, a slice, you say on a whole loaf rather because it's not pagum. It's better. And with the birkat, it's complete. Agafen is even more serious. You really shouldn't be saying that. On a bread, if you don't have, you just say a motzi on a slice. But anyway, another thing that's happening then is Rashi instituted at that point to read the ketubah. And the ketubah is read at that moment to separate the kiddushin from the nisuin. To kill time, basically.
At which point? You said at that point.
After the first bracha. After they drank for the first time, and now they are mekudashim. They are They are engaged.
The first set.
The first set, the first two. Now, what happens next is we say again, we fill up the cup. Now the cup is whole again, and we say, Baruch atah asher borei pri hagafen again. We just say borei pri hagafen, but this is a new cup. So we're saying again borei pri hagafen. And we say the 6 additional brachot, total of 7. Now, those brachot, the Chatan cannot say. The first one, if nobody is available to say, the rabbi is illiterate, which happens in some communities, right? So the Chatan can say it. But the second set, he can't, because it's blessing to him. You know, you cannot take a selfie with a bracha, you know, it doesn't work.
You can't bless yourself.
You can't bless yourself. Now, some say that in a place that you don't have 10 people to do the Sheva Brachot and to participate, you don't make a wedding in such a place. You really try to go after. Obviously, there are a lot of leniencies, and you know, if it doesn't happen, if it's impossible, but as much as possible. Now, I remember 31 years ago, there was a wedding here of 10 couples, 10 Russian couples. That you remember that from Elizabeth, exactly. I was one of the guys that they brought in, so there are 10 in each one of the chuppahs. They got some people from the community, but you know they got
That was
a few.
before we met.
That's before we met.
So you were Nogay Bedavar.
I was,
This is with Rabbi Kanelsky.
and yes, Kanelsky, and that's the first time in my life that I wore a tie. אני מכפר על זה until now. Yeah, and the last, right.
And that was the first time you were here in this building?
Yes. Not in the old building, yeah. It was done in the parking lot, yeah. Anyway. I think it's, is the rabbi coming too?
It's 8 foot.
And do the 10 people have to be Shomer Shabbat, Shomer Mitzvot, or so now what happens?
Oh, so for a minyan, any Jew is good.
Right.
You know, to do supervision and to have witnesses. The witnesses should be as kosher as possible, as Shomer Shabbat, pious people who don't play games, people who don't really, because there is the opinion in the Gemara and the Halacha that the witnesses are making the contract happen. The fact that they exist, the fact that somebody was in the forest and they heard the tree, that means that the tree made noise. The fact that they're seeing it, that's what making it's a day kiyum, it's called a day kiyum, not just not reporters, just to tell people what happened. They're actually making this event happen.
What about the minhag of having different people say different brachot?
So that's okay, because it's actually very good, because we want a lot of people to bless the Chatan Kala. So it's better to people that are close, that care, to say the brachot from all their hearts. What?
Where did that come from?
When did it start?
I think just to spread the wealth.
Aren't the
Does it go way
witnesses,
back, that custom?
I don't know.
aren't the witnesses also vouching for the witness of the party?
So that's where the rabbi has to supervise it. Before the here's the rabbi, right? Before the ceremony, the rabbi has to make sure when they sign the ketubah, they have to make sure that everybody is there and there are no relatives, and if there were if the geirim, that it was done right. It's very important. Possibly nowadays do it all in the same moment, to meet them and to know them beforehand. It's a whole
Megillah.
it's a whole Megillah. All right.